So we're going to see more of this happen. I want to see more of not the party die, but the industry die. So we now have to include those who fund the party, right? I think that, taking down Diddy, people looked at that as it was going to have some ripple effect in the world, but it couldn't because Diddy wasn't the puppet master. You know what I'm saying? Like, people really celebrated the hell out of the taking down of Diddy, but Diddy didn't have the power. Diddy didn't fund his own parties. He didn't fund none of those different things. So when we as a people, oftentimes, we look at which one of ours is doing wrong, right? We don't look at the machine itself. We don't look at getting to the root of it so that these things can be destroyed. And that's being radical. See, we lost radicalism. Radical means to get to the root. When we lost our radical tradition, we stopped caring about the root. We just look at each other to attack. Nah. But we're going to get to more conflict. There's a lot of things that we got to get rid of. There's a lot of things that if 2025 is going to be the year, right, really of the future, where you see the future really come into. We have just been introduced to a lot of futurist technologies. You feel me? Shout out to my brother Pop. We've been introduced to it, but we haven't been able to step into the future. Now, when you think about stepping into the future, you're going to realize that some things shouldn't even exist in the future. Some things should be so outdated. Like, we still got the NAACP. How is that an organization that still thrives in 2025? That makes no real progress. That is an organization of classism and Boulezism. Straight up. A lot of these organizations are straight. You got to remember that if you go back into the history of Black America, because Black America has a separate timeline thread in history. And at some point in time, we start to merge those histories as if they one and they're different, right? In the history of Black America, there was always a Boulezism, right? And those people that were of the upper class, sometimes they came from freed slaves that had early freed slaves and they had money and they seen themselves as different. They were mulatto, right? So they seen themselves completely different. And only time that they did decide to come in and mingle with the other Negroes is when they had an issue or a problem. So therefore, they was like, wait a minute, this is a us problem because they still treating us like we black. So then they would rally the foot soldiers, the Negroes in the streets. But the other people was like, well, y'all treating us the same way. Y'all treat us like we ain't no good. Because you didn't realize the classism that exists in Black America. And Black Americans don't, of course, the Boule has more power to control the media and things of that nature. And the narratives, who gets awarded, who can come in, who can't come in, right? Who gets funded, who doesn't get funded, who gets seen, who doesn't get seen. Right? Because they exist in between the whites and the blacks. The Boule is right there. They would grab a Boule and give him the money and say, distribute it. We want to be philanthropic. But the Boule is not going to say, oh, I'm going to give it to somebody radical. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to give it to their homeboys who are the same class, of the same mind and the same spirit. So that's when you have these organizations that exist that should not exist. Not in today's time. And we haven't looked at going against this classism that exists. See, they trick us as well by only looking at the white man. Right? They trick us as well by looking outside because they want to divide and conquer. Because they never want us to look at them. Look at the church. The black church has been a part of that classism, that Boulezism. How many churches exist in America? When did these conversations stop happening? When we was having conversations about some of the issues that was inside our own community. And I'm talking about not influencers that's talking. I'm talking about people who actually have resources and funds and power. See, just how white America is talking about cleaning up their own. They saying that these programs are too inefficient, that they can't continue to move forward. They can't have growth. push technological advancement and innovation. They can't make progress and they can't compete with the rest of the world unless some of these things are destroyed that come from the old guard and the old world. Warren Buffett, he swore up and down that blockchain technology essentially has no value. Now he's about to die. His money is about to pass away. He represents an old guard of the old money system and an old way of thinking. Now you have new money oligarchs shimmying up the ranks without actually being politicians whatsoever, showcasing their power boldly on display. Elon Musk is the most bold display of oligarch power ever to exist. He's right there in the president's ear running government programs while talking about buying MSNBC to control the news. They want to become emperors. Now, how can you compete against that with the same old situations? You telling me we gonna wait for something to happen and wait for the activists and the NAACP and the black church to come together when they're properly funded, but they don't do anything of any sizable thing that matters? This is why when I said I need to make my own Afrotech, no disrespect to Afrotech, but they headhunters for the corporates. We don't just need a little inspiration. We don't just need to share stories from the rich. We need stuff like building real DAOs, learning to put together our own currencies, actually utilizing decentralized finance to create radical systems of change. But that's just for the money. That's just a money thing. You say, why we ain't mad at Farrakhan? Ain't nothing to be mad at. Farrakhan is one of the most persecuted blackballed black men in the world. You should be mad at those who go against him. You should be mad at those who don't exalt him. You should be mad at those who are afraid to speak his name. That shows you who sold you out. That shows you who they work for. Mad at Farrakhan. I love Farrakhan. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Don't play with Minister Farrakhan like that, man. He the strongest, one of the strongest men ever to exist. And behind the scenes, he been keeping these things together. And go look at all those black families they're creating in the Nation of Islam. Tell me how you mad at that when the rest of black America is playing Pop the Balloon. Clown shows. Come on, man. Stop playing with it. Man, this Superman coffee here now. Oh, so I'm excited to see how the world changes, but I'm learning some things right now that when I go on tour, I want to bring the real ones together. I'm at this point, I don't even care how many people come out. It's about the quality of people who come out. Because I only want the real believers that we can create our own and do for self.